Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be watching this video. Today, we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. We have Nick here, one of the founders, or the founder, actually, excuse me, of Oxen Flow. He's kind enough to join us. Let me pick his brain a little bit, get a tour, a walkthrough of his platform, Oxen Flow. And it should be pretty chill, nothing crazy, nothing serious. But thanks again, Nick, for joining. Anything you want to start with?
No, yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on today. I'd love to get a chance to explain to a lot of people my thoughts in the crypto space and showcase Oxenflow a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's pretty cool what's going on in the crypto space. You see a lot of different developers developing in different parts of the space. It's not like all in one thing anymore. You have, wallet builders, platform builders, trying to improve like the UI and the interaction of crypto, blockchain, and all that. And then you have other innovative things like leveraging AI in the space, which is pretty cool. So, um, no, that's pretty awesome. If you don't mind if we go ahead and get started with some of the questions.
Sure.
Just want to start with some of the basic stuff, like what got you started in crypto? What drives you to build in the crypto space? Things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I got started in crypto probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Hmm.
Originally, I was an iOS developer.
Gotcha.
And, I guess we'll loop that back around, but that's sort of why I decided to build Oxenflow and so on and so forth. But yeah, so I was originally an iOS developer. Working corporate for quite a bit, and then I don't know, crypto really caught my eye. There's just so many potential use cases and the ability to kind of abstract all these users away from traditional finance, centralized systems. That's what got me interested in the first place. Uh, so from there, I actually started investing in XRP.
Mm,
That was my first investment into crypto was XRP, and
really?
uh, from there was the Flare airdrop. So
Right.
that took me from XRP to Flare. I loved what they were building on Flare, especially the original white paper when it first dropped. It sounded very interesting, really something that could advance the space, increase interoperability, which, in my opinion, I think that's the direction that things need to go in. It's the next iteration of where we need to go to bring, the next, yeah, it's cringe, but the next billion users, right? Like,
Right. Right.
how how do all these people interact with blockchain today? And like, there's really no great way to do it. And
Mm,
there's those limitations, those scalability issues, and for the most part, it's on the side of interoperability. Uh,
right.
of these silos that people are, trying to build in, and they can't cross over, and the end user is the one who suffers in
Absolutely.
the long run for that. So,
Yeah.
um,
No,
yeah, I got a little off track there, but
no,
but I
it's
mean,
all good.
all these different use cases and seeing how, blockchain could affect so many different aspects of what we do today in traditional finance and tokenize assets and securities and, the stock exchange. That's really what got me interested at first, and then starting to build something really. Once I started building something, I dove even deeper into it. So once I started building on these platforms, it got me even more excited to keep going.
Yeah, and that's kind of usually how it works. It's one thing when you're kind of just on the outside of it, but when you really get into the weeds of it, and now you're trying to create something, utilizing the technologies. Now, different parts of your brain is are activating and stuff like that. So now you have a little bit more skin in the game, if you will.
Right.
It's kind of interesting that you brought up XRP because I'm finding out that more and more people that I kind of interact with in real life, even their first crypto was XRP. So that's actually kind of cool because when I first got into crypto and I bought my first crypto, which was XRP as well, a lot of people were Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin was my thing. And that's cool too because, that was early days. I started in crypto, or at least from an investment standpoint, I was broke in college, man.
And where are we
uh,
at, right?
yeah, yeah, I was a broke college student back in like 2016. Um, stumbled on XRP, and I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. But I don't really have much. Here's $20. Just that's
Yep.
and sometimes it'd be $20 or pack of ramen noodles for the week. You got to make your decision.
I hear that. I hear that.
uh,
It's actually
but
funny. And I guess my first investment was XRP, but when I was younger, kid in my parents' house, we had this computer that I was trying to mine Bitcoin off of
yeah,
unsuccessfully when I was, I don't know, 13, something like that. But I guess that's my first experience with it. And I
right,
didn't realize what it was until, 5, 10 years later. And then that's when I started getting into
yeah.
actually understanding what it was and investing. So
Right. No, I
uh,
told my parents about Bitcoin back in the day and told them about mining, and they were just like, absolutely not. Yeah. Magic internet money? No, no, that makes no sense to me at all. So, but no, it's all good. It's interesting to hear how different and similar in some cases people's journey into crypto and digital assets is. So that's pretty cool. Now you brought up the UI, UX aspect of it, of kind of like onboarding users and making that aspect easier. And I find that very interesting. So in my day job, I mainly focus on UI, UX related things on that side of development. I'm not a developer at all, can't code, don't ask me to code, but I love, designing interfaces and things of that nature for specific audiences and end users to use. And, that's one thing that I always harp on is like, how easy can we make this for the end
yeah.
user? And sometimes I feel like, especially in the enterprise corporate world, that aspect can be overlooked just to get a product out. And sometimes it bites them in the butt and then they have to rework it later. So, crypto is definitely in that. It seems like it's in that stage where they're trying to figure out a lot of different standards, especially related to UI UX, because that's really the barrier to entry for a lot of people, especially when I think about like my grandparents or something. They don't know what a hot wallet is. They don't know what a Ledger Nano is. None of that. So when you try and walk them through the process to transfer assets or even buy assets for the first time, it's it's a learning process and it kind of scares them. To this day, I'm pretty sure it scares them. But why do you? What aspect do you think you would play in improving the UI UX? Like when you approach that aspect of what you're building, what type of thought processes do you incorporate that helps you build what you're building?
So, I mean, as you said, right, your grandparents, they're afraid to do this type of thing because they don't know what's going on. I try to keep in mind when I'm building out the interfaces for Oxen Flow and, trying to say, all right, what's the easiest way you can do this? I always think, well, can my dad do this? Or
Mm,
can I give the phone to my dad and he'll pretty much figure it out for the most part and, you know, not make a mistake, right? Like, not make a detrimental mistake where he's going to send $1,000 to the wrong person. Uh, so that's kind of where I base everything off of, and then from there I kind of go from there, right? A lot of the wallets today are they're centered around right. You need to open it up. You need to kind of manage your own security. You need to record your seed phrase, and then you need to secure that seed phrase. You don't really know what the heck it does.
mhm,
Uh, you don't know, hey, you don't understand that if you take that seed phrase and then you can import it to any other wallet because it's sort of this universal password. People don't really understand that.
mhm,
Uh, they don't need to understand it, in my opinion. If we build out the good, the interfaces that make it easy to manage these things, I don't necessarily think they need to understand it. So one of the things I really focused on when I was building on Oxenflow was onboarding. Uh, like I said, a lot of the software wallets today, and even the hardware wallets are in a whole different league. But
mhm,
like software wallets is really what's going to bring forth or onboard this next generation of users because people can just go to the app store and download an app. And with onboarding for Oxenflow specifically, I tried to think about the easiest way or the way with the least friction that I could generate a wallet for the user so that they can actually manage their assets in a non-custodial way. So like they
mhm,
actually have control of their assets, and that's really a big part of it. And yeah, so that's sort of when I'm building, I'm trying to keep that in mind. Onboarding for Oxen Flow, all you need to do is import is type in an email address. And the email address doesn't even need to be, you don't need to own the email address. It's just an identifier for the passkey to
Mhm.
store the authentication. So really the user doesn't see anything. I abstracted all that out, uh, all the complexity out, all that friction out of onboarding, and just tried to make it as simple as possible for the user to actually get from point A of not having a wallet to point B of having a wallet. Uh,
Right.
and and I think I did that pretty well. I think Oxenflow does that pretty well. Uh, you know, I'm I- I'm really looking to now from there, since the onboarding portion is kind of all thought out.
Mhm.
How does the user now interact with their assets? A lot of the wallets today have these browser functions where you kind of have a free for all, and the user can go to any URL they want to. They don't necessarily know what URL they're going to. They can be sent to a scam URL. They could be sending they don't there's it's a little bit of a free for all. It's a little bit of the wild west there. So really what I'm trying to do is take that back and say, all right, let's build all this native functionality directly into the app as a Web 2 app would, right? You have a
Mhm.
Web 2 app, any interaction that you have just interacts with the back end, but instead, the back end in our app is going to be the blockchain. Now, on the other wallet apps with the browser is actually interacting with the blockchain, so you can navigate it elsewhere. It's kind of gated and locked so that it's it's less prone for user error, and it
Mhm.
actually tailor that native experience to the user as opposed to saying, "Here's a browser, put in the URL, you can go interact with any D app that you want, and all the it's all on you at that point."
Right. Right.
So I think really what you want to see is kind of have these apps come back to that net native experience where you're actually interacting with the back end itself. Like you're actually interacting with the blockchain itself. So for Oxenflow, everything that you do is you're making a transaction, you're submitting it directly to the blockchain with directly from that user experience.
Mm.
So it's all a custom user experience for any kind of DApp that you want. I'm pretty much rebuilding some kind of DApps as a new UI for a native experience with Oxenflow.
No, that sounds pretty cool, and that seems to, especially for like newer users, that seems like a more secure option. People who may not be savvy with the blockchain, so that's actually pretty cool. Um, you've We've talked about Oxenflow a lot, as far as like your vision and kind of like what your whole idea going into it was. So it sounds like you really, really had a good idea of what you wanted to achieve, and that's always great. So if you don't mind, can we go ahead and see Oxenflow? Like,
Absolutely. Let's see. Hold on.
okay,
Let me pull up a little recording here so I can share the screen.
yeah, awesome. And while you're doing that, have you always been an iOS developer, or did you kind of like matriculate through other languages?
So for the most of my, I guess, corporate career,
Mhm.
uh, It was I've been an iOS developer. I started at Wayfair. I was a full stack developer, but I quickly transitioned to being on their iOS team,
Okay.
'cause I thought that that was a good niche to be in, and I've always been interested in, iOS development. I've done a little bit in college, and then I did a little bit on the side, so I thought that was the best direction for me to go to because I did enjoy it. So pretty much from from based out of college, I've been an iOS developer.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I
And then
bounced around personally.
okay,
In school, they taught us a lot of like C sharp, which I felt was like kind of old and clunky. And then I went into like JavaScript stuff, and then professionally, I've been more so iOS as of late. So it's been pretty
cool.
cool.
You are UX UI design?
Yeah, yeah, that's typically where I hang my hat, process design, that type of stuff. It kinda didn't start that way, I kinda stumbled upon it. I thought I would be a really good developer, and I liked it, but as far as just being able to lock in, kind of like how you need to and like really crank out code. I just couldn't never get in that second gear. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
figured like, you know what? Maybe like the business UI, UX, business process design, that type of side is better for me. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I've been able to meet a lot of good developers and be on some pretty cool projects. So
Yeah, as long as you enjoy it, I mean, that's kinda half the battle, right?
right, right. Okay,
Absolutely.
so let me bring this up.
Awesome. So this is actually I have this, broadcasting from my phone right now. This is a live preview. This is an in development version. We are in the process of so Oxen Flow is built on Flare, and Flare was chosen for the reason that it is building in all these interoperability layers so that, you know, from an ideal standpoint in the future, you can use Flare to interact with all the other different blockchains, right? One of the big things was F assets for Flare. Now, protocol managed wallets are going to be a new thing. But with that said, Oxenflow, you know, as a first iteration, we wanted to build in XRPL functionality as well so that, as I said, as a first iteration, you will be able to eventually interact with, you know, the protocols that are going to deal with Flare and XRPL exclusively. One of those things was XRPL staking. So just as a teaser, that's sort of the direction that we're going in. And this is like I said, this is a future version. Currently in the process of getting this functionality audited, and everything on Oxyflow usually goes through an audit, depending on, you know, how in depth technically it is. For introducing XRPL functionality into the wallet, it's sort of an important piece. So we we make sure that we get it audited and you know that it's safe to use because we do take
Right.
security very seriously. Um, so yeah, so I'm just gonna open up the wallet here. If you tap sign in, this is already registered this account, so I have some funds in here already.
Mhm.
It's actually on Costin too, so this is the test net. But as
Gotcha.
you can see, just an email here. It's the same flow for registration. So if you go to registration and then type in an email that you want to register with, you literally just tap the register button. And what we do here is we use passkeys and Face ID. So all you do is authorize Face ID here. The wallet gets reconstructed, and you are in for your wallet. So that is the that you, this registration is the same way. It's a one-step registration process, and that's really where we try and reduce the friction for onboarding. Um, so from there, this is just a little preview. You can see your, you know, your assets that are on Flare. You can also see your assets that are on the XRPL. Uh, you know, and you can tap into here. This is your Flare history that you can see. Same thing for your wrapped Flare, and you know we can get into what wrapped Flare is, but we don't have to today.
Right.
One of the really cool things I think that as we're going to continue to build out, you know, these pieces of functionality is something in the Earn tab.
Okay.
Uh, Now, so in the Earn tab, this is a username. In the Earn tab, you can see this is actually where you can delegate and earn yield on Flare, right? And like I said previously, what you can do in a lot of these different wallet apps is you would go to the browser, you would go to the Flare portal in the browser, and then you would from there delegate your Flare, you know, having the wallet signed on the front end. Here, you know, you have complete control. You know, there's no funds in here right now. I can actually add funds real quick. Let me see. Just go to faucet. Just gonna fill the okay. So back to here. So now we have 100 Flare. I just added some Flare to the account so I can show you how
Yeah.
this delegation and earn tab works.
That was pretty quick too. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, you'll see it. I mean, Flare is very quick, right? You know, there's gas is cheap, and it's a network that scales, and that was
Right.
another one of the reasons why I chose to build Oxenflow on Flare. Uh, but as you can see here now, so instead of going to a browser, instead of going to the portal, right, you're able to basically just tap a button. We're going to top up our funds here, so we're just wrapping. Uh,
Mhm.
But same thing when you're initially delegating, you're going to be able to top up your funds. this signs the transaction for you, your app with Face ID, and boom, now you're delegating and you're earning. So instead of having to go to the browser, having to go through that third party and do it, we're doing it here, right here for you. And in the future, right, the idea is to have more ways to earn on Flare. So we're going to introduce staking. Uh, we're going to introduce, hopefully in the future, another thing was XRP staking, which will be pretty big. Um, but the idea is to, and you can even claim your flare drops here. You can, and auto compound and auto claim is available as well. But the idea is to just make life a bit simpler for the user,
Hmm.
not have to worry about all the different, you know, security issues that come along with working with a blockchain or having a wallet and having to sign transactions. So the idea is to make that very simple for the user. Another feature we have here is usernames. You can actually claim a username and then use that username to send and receive from other accounts that have registered usernames. So I'm just going to send it to another test account that we have here. You can send $1. And basically, this will even do the unwrapping of the flare and sending it. So we're even trying to abstract out that complexity as well, right? Like you have an
Yeah.
app flare, it's a one-to-one with Flare. So you're going to be able to, it actually unwraps and sends the actual Flare for you. So you don't have
Right.
to worry about that too. Uh, and it's the little things, right? Like we're looking to see, all right, you know, where can we manage that complexity? Like my father, again, like would he know to unwrap his Flare before he has to send it? Or would he just not understand what's going on? So
Right.
does he need to understand? If we can do it for him, then why does he need to understand? Let's just do it,
Right.
right? So I think that's just kind of what we have in mind for future integrations, future advancements and features down the line. Uh, Again, trying to make things simple, deposit and withdraw, simple language will take you to the topper web page or the topper, and everything stays in app during this whole thing. So it's all in this sheet here. So
Hmm.
once you buy the flare through topper, it will send it directly to your wallet and you're good to go. uh, yeah.
No, this looks great, man. I really like the design of this. It To your point, I mean, this seems like really easy to use. In most wallets, you have to manually unwrap Flare before you can do anything. So the fact that you've abstracted that out from the user experience, and again, we're talking about mainstream. We're not talking about crypto native people that are used to most of what's going on in crypto up to this point. We're talking about mainstream individuals, and they're not going to know to unwrap Flare before you send it to an exchange. And then if it's an exchange that doesn't support wrap Flare, like you're pretty screwed. I mean,
Yep,
because
exactly.
they're not gonna unwrap it for you and give it back. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So coming from traditional development, how hard or how easy was the transition into developing with blockchain technologies?
So there was definitely a learning curve, and the way to overcome that learning curve, in my opinion, is pick something that you're actually interested in.
Hmm.
And especially with blockchain, that was something that I was interested in, and it was much easier to pick up on a lot of things because I had the focus and the will to actually want to do it, right?
Right.
So by picking blockchain and something that I was actually interested in, it made overcoming that learning curve much easier, right? And at the end of the day, code is code. If you have some
Hmm.
good object-oriented principles and foundations, and you're able to read pretty much anything, you can understand it, right? The main language I worked in for 5 or 6 years was Swift because that's the native iOS language.
Right.
Uh, at the same time, you know, coming from a good background, a solid background in object-oriented programming and abstract concepts and that kind of thing, I was able to pick up on a lot of these other blockchain concepts and architect it out in my head before moving forward. But
Yeah.
uh, I will say I think people underestimate themselves, and and just need a little bit of confidence to push forward and learn something new and do something new.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. Anything that I've been able to kind of like achieve and move forward in, I had to go through that. Hey, no, let's try this out. You have the capability to do it, but let's see how this works. Let's see how it happens. So I definitely agree with that. You got to have confidence in yourself, and then you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So
Yeah.
I see you have Flare and XRP Ledger support here. Are there any plans to add additional chains as support for the Oxen Flow wallet?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, it's just going to be Flare and XRP on the XRP ledger. We're
Hmm.
going to explore ways and how we can integrate with different chains, right? If it makes sense to go in that protocol managed wallet direction and kind of just have this whole abstract thing where you can really integrate with any chain,
Hmm.
uh, that might be a direction. I think we just haven't really figured out which chains would be the next to integrate. Potentially, I guess Bitcoin could be a potential one with upcoming F assets. But yeah, I mean, the idea is to keep it as simple as possible for as long as possible and figure out creative ways and to maintain that simplicity.
Yeah.
So so yeah, if we can do that with PWMs, maybe that's the better idea to go in. But I'm always open to feedback. I love getting feedback and DMs from people saying, "Oh, this is can we do this or this and that?" And I always take that into account because I people that are using it, especially the power users, are going to want to they're going to kind of want to know and point you in the right direction of what everybody else might want to see.
Right. Right. That is true. You always have to tap into those that vocal aspect of your audience because they'll give you the honest feedback that you're as a developer, I'm sure you're
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah, no, I do, and I mean, uh, I trust what they're saying too. Like I know that those are the real users, right? Like I know from
Right.
my experience as an iOS developer, you have your power users, which are people who use it all the time. They know what they want to see. They know what's missing.
Hmm.
And then you have your regular users where they may not notice those things, but they wouldn't have to think about it. It'd still make it a better experience, even though that the power you took advice from a power user and added it to the app. So
Right.
I value a lot of I value feedback very highly, and based on what my schedule is, I try and work in as much as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is there anything else you'd like to show off here?
Uh, let's see here. I mean, profile, right? So one other thing to keep in mind about Oxen Flow is that it is non-custodial. So
Right.
we use Web3 auth, and
Okay.
basically, they were supplied with this threshold key
Hmm.
where one portion is supplied by Web3 auth. The other portion is on your device. So that's how it's not custodial. The other portion of the key is on your device. And then there is a third portion of key material that is your account recovery phrase. Now, the only reason that you would need this account recovery phrase is if you lose your device. So
Hmm.
it's very good to keep in mind that you should also still record it. You don't really, it doesn't need to be a secure because you can't take this phrase and input it into a wallet and people can't, drain your funds or anything. But if you do lose your device in order to regenerate the address and the private key, you do need the account recovery phrase. So that's something to keep in mind. We do have plans to kind of put a little bit better language and notification in the app to direct users to do that.
Okay.
But that's coming. Uh, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for now. We're always building out new features. We're looking for new ways to display your earnings, your APY, that kind of thing. Uh, and we're trying to move as fast as possible. So
Right.
um, I'll just log out here and just show you how simple it is. Even if you log out, you can log right back in. It takes, in a matter of seconds, you're in and out of your wallet. And if you choose to register with a different email address, it'll be a different wallet. So you can manage
Okay.
multiple wallets in that way as well.
Just by username or that email address or different email
Correct.
address.
Yes. So
That's
just
pretty
by the
cool.
email address, we don't send you any. any kind of notifications, no emails. We don't. The main purpose of that email is so you can uh, register something that you understand when you're doing your pass key, so you know
Gotcha.
exactly what's coming up. Because when you tap on the pass key, it'll say, you know, test account at gmail.com is signing in for this pass key. So if you can use random numbers, but then you wouldn't understand what you're doing.
Right.
Um,
So you
so go ahead.
No, you mentioned the account recovery for if you were to lose your device. But a lot of people they go through like device upgrades. So would they have to go through the same process, or is it because they have that pass key, it'll just bring it back up when say they get a new iOS device or something like that?
So the pass key will be saved, which is totally fine. But you'll still need that recovery phrase when you upgrade because it will need to resave a new portion of key on that new device.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
keep in mind that is a very good point to keep in mind when you do upgrade, you do need that recovery phrase to do so.
Right, right. So it's just a matter of just device change at all. No matter
Correct.
the
Yes.
circumstance, you need that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Gotcha.
if you want to import or run the account on a new device,
Mhm.
you need the recovery phrase to do so.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now this is awesome. I think just based off of this walkthrough, I think you've thought through a lot of design choices that I wish a lot of other wallets would think through. One of the main things that I noticed was the transaction history on on Oxen Flow seems so much more like readable than
I
other
try to
wallets.
make it that way because unfortunately, when it comes to transaction history, like the data itself is so granular, so verbose when you see it
Right.
on a blockchain indexer or when the raw data is actually coming in. So I tried to make it the most digestible possible. There's a lot of things that are going on, right? When you're trying to uh, when you're trying to delegate funds, and one of that being you have to wrap the funds themselves. So here we you can see that there's sent at the top, right? That's just where we sent something. That's part of the transaction history. But you can see also that there's a deposit,
Hmm.
and that deposit is basically where you're wrapping. So I tried to make it as simple as possible. If you really want more granular access, you can copy the transaction hash and go to the block explorer, which in my mind, mostly, in order to know how to do that, you got to be a power user, and power users already
Yeah.
know how to do that. So,
Right.
it's just in the future, right? You can just add a link or have it maybe pop up in app, but for the most part, just copying transaction history or transaction hash can show you how to do that to begin with. So,
Right.
something to keep in mind when looking through your transaction history and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's one of those small details that will go a long way, in my opinion. I mean, like this morning, I saw that there were some additional funds in my wallet, and I'm just like, where did this come from? So I
Right.
look at the transaction, and some NFTs I had put up on the market had sold, but like it took me a minute to like comb through the transaction details to understand
What's
what
going on?
happened.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas what you have in Oxenflow, if that same situation were to happen, I'm pretty sure I would be able to quickly see, oh, my NFT sold.
Yep. Yeah, your NFT holder, you receive these funds based
Right.
on whatever it is, and if it didn't provide enough information for you to know that, you can take the transaction hash and go check it out and see where it actually came from.
No,
So
that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. I definitely like what I see. So kudos to you. I hope you keep going, man, because that looks great. And I hope Oxenflow set some precedents, man, because that UI UX is very crucial to the overall experience in interacting with digital assets. So it's very nice to see builders in the space, honing in on that. But you mentioned, parts of Flare 2.0, and that being like the protocol managed wallets. What, just want to pick your brain about, Flare and things of that nature, what you think is going on. What do you think about the recent announcement of Flare 2.0? And then the first step being, introducing protocol managed wallets.
I mean, at first thought, for me, it's very exciting, right? Especially
Mhm.
since I'm a developer and I'm building on the chain. It's very exciting because with that, you're able to cater to all these different ecosystems that may not have had. the same functionality that they had before, right? A lot of these
Right.
people in the Ethereum ecosystem have been dealing with the same ecosystem for all these number of years when, you know, the, it also it also, I think about it as like a sense of kind of peeling back some of the tribalism that comes with, working on a blockchain or doing any of this, right? For me, it's exciting. I think it's exciting for developers. I think it's exciting for users, even though they may not know it yet.
Hmm.
Uh, the fact that they're going to be able to, execute a transaction in one place and have it affect the chain in another place, it's a pretty big deal, and they don't even have to know about it.
Right.
Uh, so it's it's a good way to. I mean, one of the first things that Hugo said when he was, when doing one of those talks and for Flare early on was that there was a lot of fragmented liquidity, and the purpose of Flare was to kind of bring together that fragmentation.
Hmm.
And I think with protocol managed wallets, you really begin to do that in a meaningful way, right? The first meaningful way would have been F assets, and it still is, but an, a much larger meaningful way would be that this, infinitely interoperable solution is going to come to market, and Flare being the only ones that are really doing this, it's
Hmm.
kind of a big deal. Uh, that's why, it's tough too, because a lot of hype and, positivity around a specific blockchain is so based on price all the time
Yeah.
that some of these things get buried. Uh,
Hmm.
in my opinion, it's a huge piece of news. You'd think that the price would start going up, but at the same time, like, okay, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. These things are still going
Right.
to Flare is still going to build out. Eventually the value will be realized. Uh, but I don't know. In my opinion, it's a really, really cool, really big advancement that we have yet to see in the space. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited. I will admit though, um when the announcement came down that Layer Cake was getting deprecated, I was a little, I was kind of sad. I was kind of
yeah,
sad. But I understood. I understood. You got to be able to focus on your primary target, and you want to land smack dab in the middle on target on that primary focus. So I totally understand that. But when they came out with protocol managed wallets, I was like, oh, I would much prefer this
absolutely,
over layer cake. So I will take it. Thank you so much.
absolutely.
But overall, I think this is an exciting time in the blockchain space. I've been seeing like Flare AI agents on X, here and there.
Yep,
So that's also pretty cool. So really just seeing how they're, you know, just diving in on this confidential compute verifiable AI, that type of stuff, TEEs, all this, and being able to make or bring together such complex technologies to present the end user with really game changing opportunities here. Being able to truly extract or abstract the chain from the overall user experience is, I think, from a concept it just seemed impossible at first, but now that we're like really seeing it happen, I think it's pretty cool. So I'm excited for stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure it'll make life over at Oxen Flow more interesting too, to be able to
absolutely.
leverage that technology. So that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I didn't really want to take too much of your time, Nick. I definitely appreciate you for stopping by and having a quick chat with me. Are there any closing remarks you want to give before we in the recording?
No, go to the Apple App Store and download Oxenflow.
Definitely, definitely download Oxen Flow, and you probably got me hooked. I'm using another wallet, but
Cool.
just based off of that presentation, man, I'm gonna have to switch over because that UI UX experience is really crucial, especially for me being a UI UX designer or someone who's interested in that type of stuff. I think you're really hitting certain things out of the park, and I would love to support. So I'll definitely have to make that switch.
I'd love to hear it, and let me know your thoughts. If you have UI UX feedback, let me hear it.
Oh yeah, of course, of course, of course. I'll reach out to you if anything comes to mind. But again, Nick, thank you so much. This has been Nick, founder of Oxen Flow. Thank you again. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely, I appreciate this.
Yeah, no problem.